I went into my boss's office when it was performance review time and thought that I was going to get a promotion. And instead, my counterpart, who was male, got the job instead of me and became my boss. It was so violating. And in that moment, I realized that I didn't have any control over my future. And that's what I truly desired. And now my highest value is autonomy, which is different than freedom, because autonomy is about being able to control your destiny. I figured out there's 3 things that make a successful person tick when in the relationship to values. And they are their vision, their voids, and their violations.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 126 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. If you've been struggling to make money and you don't know why, if you think you started your business for one reason and oh my gosh, you're all the way over there, you are going to be so happy that you stopped by and caught this episode of the Game On Girlfriend podcast, because today I'm going to bring you Jennifer Kem. Now, she is a brand building and leadership expert, and she gets entrepreneurs seen, heard, and paid just to be themselves. I don't know about you, but I'm in for this. Jennifer's really smart, and there's a heart to what she shares that I think a lot of people miss when they talk about entrepreneurship and how to find your values. I really want you to listen to Jennifer's originating story. I want you to listen for what she did in one specific moment where she chose to grasp her future. And she chose to make things different than they've ever been before. And her entire business and her beautiful brand building expertise and helping people understand values and what that does for you, all of that came out of that one moment. I really hope you listen to it, because it's not some lightning bolt moment, you guys. This is not a moment that only some people get to have. Chances are you will find yourself in this moment, and flipping it around by asking the question she asked can literally change your life. I don't say that lightly. The other thing I want you to understand is when she started living based on what she discovered that day, she had her first $10 million year in her business. I don't know about you, but I'm in. Pop in those earphones and let's get to it. Jennifer, I am so happy to have you on the Game On Girlfriend podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, Sarah. I'm excited about this.
Me too.
I love this. I love this type of conversation. So
you have a unique perspective on values, which we're going to just jump right in, because why not? So can you tell me, in your perspective, what values actually are and how they help kind of formulate how we are in business and what we do in business?
Values, I think, is my favorite word in the entire dictionary, because after being in the corporate world for over a decade and then leaving to start my first business in 2006, and since then have been a wild and crazy entrepreneur building multiple businesses. In the corporate world, values are something you hear a lot of companies say they have. And I'm not saying they don't have them, but it's become this kind of canonized word that doesn't mean anything, if you will. It's kind of like, okay, this is what we stand for. But then you see in the corporate world, sometimes companies aren't standing for that, or they just do it as a signaling virtue. When I made the big decision to leave the corporate world, it was based on what I call a values violation. I realized that it came all down to my individual values as a leader. And I became obsessed with the science of values. Values are actually a science, and there's a psychology behind it. And so my definition of values is it is the thing that actually keeps us motivated and inspired to move through hard things. And it is the thing that successful people, and when I say success, that's based on your own terms, not just financially, but holistic success. But successful people live their values every single day. And so I have a framework to kind of support what values really are, which we can talk about in a moment. But I wanted to kind of give you the origin story of how values became so important to me. And now it's my main leadership and mindset philosophy in our company and also with our clients, and how, when they're figuring out issues with team communication, problems at home, because I like to say that no, there's no such thing really as a business problem. There's only personal and leadership issues that you need to figure out.
Here.
And it's so easy to get tactical, which obviously those are needed. You need the hows,
right?
But more so you need the why. and the why is your values. Let me tell you the moment I figured out or started putting language around values and then became obsessed with studying it. I was a VP at one of the biggest companies in the world.
Wow.
And I was the fixer. You know, they used to bring me in to take on projects that sucked, basically. And by that point, Sarah, I was tired. Like I was like, I had 2 young daughters at the time. They were like 8 and 3.
Oh, that's the age, man.
Right. That's the age
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We make these decisions like, do I want to like still do this? And I tell people all the time, I had no desire to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't like, oh, that's my dream growing up. No, my dream was actually to be a lawyer, but I'm glad I didn't do that. And I was known as the fixer. They would bring me in and they gave me this project and I said, I don't want to take it because I know what it's going to take to put it in. And it was the predecessor to what is now Netflix and streaming. And so I was one of the first executives to bring streaming to the market. This was back in 2000.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hi.
I'm an OG, seasoned chicken OG, seen it all, kind of thing. And anyway, long story short, I was promised a promotion. And in my mind, Sarah, I thought, oh, I'm going to be CMO and then I'm going to get a CEO job in the Fortune 500. I thought I was going to be in high tech forever. So I kind of had my own succession planning in my own head and my idea of what I wanted. And I thought I wanted that because I thought that if I did that, then I would have met a life goal. That promotion that I was supposed to get when I had successfully launched Internet Protocol TV, which is what Netflix is today. It's called IPTV. It's a billion dollar industry. And I went into my boss's office when it was performance review time and thought that I was going to get a promotion. And instead my counterpart, who was male, got the job instead of me and became my boss. And yeah,
I just felt that. I felt it right in my gut. Felt it.
Yeah. It was so violating. So that word is going to be important as we talk about values, because I always thought, oh, if you work hard and you're a good employee and you're a leader and you can lead teams and all those things, of course, the next step is that. But what I've realized, and because maybe I was just a little bit too naive and hopeful that when you did good work, you would get promoted. But it was really about what I realized is my counterpart, who, by the way, we're still really good friends. So I don't want anybody listening thinking this is a male bashing conversation. I love men, but I'm pro women, because women, we got to step up. We've got to know that we can do things even better. And at that moment, I realized, wait a minute, what are my values? Here I was working for 2 years straight in this project where I barely saw my kids. My mom would have to fly in from California just to watch them for me because it took everything from me. And it was a choice I made. And so I thought that my highest values were ambition and family. And in that moment, I realized that I didn't have any control over my future. And that's what I truly desired. And so I was like, I need to link my ambition to my future, which I realize now, and now my highest value is autonomy, which is different than freedom, because autonomy is about being able to control your destiny in a way. And I'm like, I think entrepreneurs were like mini control freaks no matter what.
There's no question about that. Yes. We all admit it. Yes.
Yeah. And so I was like, wait a minute, I don't care about ambition here. I care about autonomy. And then that's when it sparked me. Like, I was like, let me study this. Marketing is the science of human consumption. How do the humans have to behave to get what they want? I had to study myself first. And that's how the values-driven methodology that I now say is the center of all success came about. That was that moment. And so I figured out there's 3 things that make a successful person tick when in the relationship to values. And they are their vision, their voids, and their violations. Okay. And vision is the thing most people talk about, especially in entrepreneurship. You have a vision, you want to write your vision, and vision is critical. It is important. But nobody talks about the hard stuff. They do in relationship to storytelling, but not in relationship to your behavior.
You're right. When it comes to actually doing it, we don't talk about voids and violations.
Correct. That's the behavior moment. Like that's the moment where a critical thing happened. I don't think we name it as the behavior moment, but it is a behavior. So I'd like to think of vision as your future self, right?
Okay.
Vision is the future you that you see and you want to make this impact and you want to create this life, whatever it looks like. Your voids are your present. This is the present you who's like, oh, I wonder if I should do this. That's actually like, should I do this next? What should I do next? Right? That's the present you. That's the void. You're in the void, right? And then there's the violations, which I like to think of as like your past you. It could even still be your present you. So things that have happened to you, typically in psychology, they call those traumas, right? And there's different levels of trauma, big T trauma, small T trauma. But from the business sense, what I like to say is like, where were you violated? And I gave you a violation story, but it was the key thing that woke me up to this work, which is so awesome, right? But it didn't feel good in the
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
And so those are the three kind of components of living a values-driven life and making values-driven decisions and running a values-driven business, even
Yeah,
if
I
it's a
love that. I love that you call it a values-driven business, because I think what you said in the very beginning is true. And I think we do this as entrepreneurs as well, where it's like the performative nature of corporations to have values. It's like, you don't, what? Like
yeah,
that, no. But I think we can tend to do it too. Like we have the values
yes,
of wanting to promote women or wanting to do these things. And like, we want to make sure we really understand what's driving that. And I think you and I are on the same page with this word violations. I think it's so important. I'm actually, and you guys all link to this below too, because I have a podcast, a solo podcast where I actually said anger is my favorite emotion.
oh, I
Because
love
it
it.
indicates there's been a boundary violation. And like,
Yes,
that's a healthy thing for us to have.
I believe in sacred rage. I was in rage, and there's power in rage for you if you know how to see all the sides of it.
I love that you're calling it the sacred rage, right? That you were feeling in that moment because you had had a massive boundary violation. And I think what's so cool about what you did with it is not only did you in that moment say, this is not okay, what's my role? You then went and created a solution to it as well, which is just like,
Mhm.
and like you said, that goes into the behavioral piece of it. We're kind of poking around the voids and the violations. Like, what do we do with that?
I have a quick and dirty exercise that you can start doing as you listen to this podcast. Because when you get this, when you take that beat and you get this work, you will feel freedom like you've never felt before in terms of saying what I call a clean no and a clean
Ooh.
yes. I
Oh, tell me all the things. This sounds good.
Okay. I believe maybe is the devil. I call maybe the devil. Maybe is the thing, it's a cop out. It's a way for us to live in purgatory. It's the void. And the
Mm,
void is painful, right?
mm.
So in order to get out of the void, if from this moment, from listening to this podcast, you say, I am committed to making clean no and clean yes decisions, and that the no feels great and the yes feels great, instead of maybe being your approach to life, that's where you'll start to see the mini successes turn into large successes in your business, because I say no to things that are not in relationship to my values. And it has opened up such gorgeous yeses for me. Here's how you do it. And this is the simplified version. Obviously, I'm going to line this all up in my book, but the simplified version is this. First, do a vision exercise. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? And make sure it's not a fantasy. Make sure it's a dream. What we need as business people is to realize for ourselves, what is the actual dream I have? So let's say it's a 3 year. I don't like to go past 3 years when I do vision work, because anything past that, your life's going to change. So write a letter to your future self is the first exercise, meaning like, hi, Jen Kem, 3 years from now, this is exactly how I'm living. This is, all the things. Then for voids, ask yourself, what are 5 voids that you are feeling today that have contributed to whatever distress or wondering that you have about who you should be today?
Right.
And then violations, which I gave you a pretty clear example of, is anything that you feel has wronged the situation for you or
Okay.
for a collective. What are the 5 violations that you stand for or have personally affected you? Because it's so easy for us to talk about the world, but the world starts with us. The definition of integrity is keeping your word. right?
Yes.
And most importantly, we have to keep our word to ourselves because we're expecting that other people will keep their word, but that's a violation, right? We've been violated by people lying or saying things that are, and I'm kind of like, first look at yourself
Yes.
and ask yourself, if you say freedom is your highest value, because a lot of entrepreneurs say that, what are the behaviors linked to freedom that you're committed to? What are the clean yeses and clean nos that you're doing that actually say freedom is your highest value? I would say, and even though this sounds harsh, but true, freedom is not your highest value. So the question is, like me, how can you shift it? How can you create behaviors looking at your real voids, your violations, and your vision, and link that to the future you want to be? We have to retrain our brain not to have values that come from the outside, because typically values are ingrained from a young age. They have, like, based on your culture, based on your religion, based on your working environment. These are all real things that have influenced your values. But the question I have is, what are your real values? And you only find out when you do this work, the triad, I call it, the 3 V's, and really start to go, okay, I think freedom is my highest value, but why isn't it? And freedom is not my highest value. Autonomy is different than freedom.
Mhm.
I I realized that justice was one of my highest values. Like, I always thought of
Oh,
myself
I
as a
love that.
social justice person, but like, until I realized, for me to make a just move for myself, justice to me, my definition is equity, equality, fairness. And in that moment, it wasn't fair. And so I'm always seeking a fair outcome as a result of my clean yes and clean no decisions. My third value is generosity. So I believe that anything that I know can be shared freely. And once I started figuring this work out and then applying these rules to my business, that's when I made my first $10 million in a year. That's when I first, it's such a shift, and it's more than mindset, as you can see. Like, a lot of people talk about mindset, but this is a science and it really helps.
I talk a lot in my work. I never put these two things together, but I think you've hit something really important. As I say to people, like, you can change your thoughts as much as you want, right? And your beliefs, you can try to work on that, but that's the invisible world. And the only thing that gives you visible results are the actions you take, right? That's the bridge between the two worlds. And that's what you're saying, is like, these values are not just like some nice thing you read on a Hallmark card one time. Like, this is how you choose to make your clean yeses and your clean nos and actually move your life in a specific directions. And I love that you're talking about the actual results you're seeing, like first $10 million year in a business, right? Like, that's what happens when we act in alignment with who we actually are, not what we think the world wants us to be. Like, but the world
Totally.
wants me to be a princess, or I'm supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to be pushy. I'm not supposed to make this money. All of the different ways we've received those messages all along. And by the time when you stop that and go, hold on, what do I want to hear? That's where all the magic is, I think. I mean, Jennifer, this has been so amazing, so amazing. And I know you have a free gift for our audience, and I'd love for you to share about that.
Well, yeah, since I am such a behavior geek, I have another method inside of my business that helps us message who we are more effectively. And I think that's one of the gaps. I think that if there's 2 things that you need to run a successful business in my mind, and that is obviously knowing your values and behaving them, and the second is messaging them. Okay, letting people know how you can help them. And so we call that the brand archetype method, and it's based on my years of experience in the corporate world, and then I adapted it for entrepreneurs because I felt like entrepreneurs were not using it. So I have an entire psychological assessment. Don't worry, we're not going to like give you a lobotomy, okay, through the assessment. But I will say this, it is an actual assessment. It's not clickbait. Typically, every single day when they take the assessment, they pay $250. But I want to give your listeners the full reports. So you get 3 reports on your brand messaging, which is your brand influence mix. And you can get that by going to confidently.me, not .com. So confidently.me/girlfriend. And you can take the assessment, and I hope it helps you message your business better.
Oh, I love it. You guys, we are going to have that link under the video for those of you watching on YouTube, and we will have it in the show notes for those of you listening. please go do this. It's like so important. You guys know I only bring you people who do amazing stuff. So get your butt on over there and go grab it. Jennifer, thank you so much for spending so much time with us today. I've absolutely loved it. And I know we dropped a lot of amazing nuggets of gooey goodness for our listeners. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, it's been so fun. I'm so grateful. And I hope everyone goes and be their values.
I love it. I love it. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks.